Hello everyone, this is Bethlehem Atfield. Welcome to the podcast Journey to Ethiopia with a Story. Virgins Always Bleed is an unapologetically original literary work by Lemlem Delahun. In this novel, what started as a coming-of-age story told from a supposedly naive woman's point of view who turns out to be a keen observer and unrestrained critic of her family, boyfriend, religion, and culture turns in the second half of the book to an unabashedly explicit romantic scenes that deals with betrayal at different levels. Today I'll read an excerpt from the beginning and the middle of the book. These are the things you learn when you grow up an overweight girl in a skinny haven like Ethiopia, that they are more likely than not laughing at you, that they believe your fat and their poverty are somehow connected. A sign that you eat more than your share, you capitalist pig. When your good neighbor's version of 3 meals a day is rounds of black coffee for breakfast with a handful of roasted beans or peas, kolo, before a bit of injera with a splash of meatless what, made either for the meat or end of the day meal. And that when you go out, you walk alone. So, out of guilt and embarrassment over your heavy thighs and the patriotic need to belong with the masses, you try to make yourself exceptionally agreeable. You laugh when they call you fatso, when they joke about Mother Earth's inability to carry you, how you would sink like a pumpkin if you were to fall. When they compare you to Sostut Abdelsawaj, villains in the translated work of Yuri Olesha, where the enemies of the poor are portrayed not as poverty and the lack of good governance, but 3 obese guys obsessed with eating and making merry. When you can, you find a girl of equal size or bigger and befriend her. When you can't, you cover your breasts with your binder, avoid eye contact, and let your alphabetical and intellectual inferior chairmate, Yushwaget, ask all the questions and give all the answers for you, winning her the favor of teachers and many a student willing to sit next to her at exam times. You even agree to let Abush, Mofo, Tubby walk you home if he promised to stop his siblings from their 2-month-long after-school campaign of harassment, where they slapped your books and ran, kept calling your name in a voice they deemed nasty and hid, routinely followed you up to your Safa village, sometimes quickening their step to the front, sometimes lagging as if seized by a collective madness that can neither stand being ignored nor know what to do with being noticed. What you won't do, what it will never occur to you to do, is protest you were being fat-shamed for imbibing a porridge of morinaga milk powder mashed into boiled potatoes as a toddler because your food source, Winnie's fully functional breasts, were 227 kilometers away, and that no amount of skipping, be it dinner or romp, nor sucking lemon, the local remedy for burning excess fat, seems to bring down the kilograms. So you suffer quietly, itching to say something, anything, then worrying it would only make things worse, until a day comes when you look up, startled by the absence of noise, and realize that your harassers have long forgiven you, that they have stopped calling your names or laughing in a way that seems directed at you. You're not sure if that is because you were motherless now, a ward of the village it takes to raise you and your 2 siblings, or because Winnie's death has changed you in such a way it made her co-worker cry when she saw you a few months after the funeral, or being noticed and courted by a man, albeit a boy man, just a year older, never fails to intrigue and raise your values in the eyes of onlookers. However, it's obvious you can't be further from their mind if you were walking up and down Dunkus Bridge in sackcloth at noontime, the place and time of the day evil spirits are said to be most impatient for wandering souls. Your village's collective interest appears to have shifted to something else. Nay, someone else, another Bezabe from Figerskamekabe, another Abel from Samamen, another Romeo drooling over a different kind of Juliet, a boy from a distant Sefer who is said to have gone mad over Hagari Makra, a village beauty and youngest member of wealthy Makra family. A girl you still associate with milk bread, butterfly hair claw, and chestnut brown leather shoes with buckle fastening, who referred to you as Yetanayet instead of Yamisarach, the 2 times she was forced to acknowledge your existence. Long before it was brought to your attention that he was Hagari's husband, a term commonly used to describe a boyfriend or a lover, you have seen the boy, 22 at least, according to Munae, who is good at guessing ages, hanging outside Gash Temirtu's kiosk, waiting, it appears, to catch Hagari on her way out to places more grand, more exciting, and more filled with better specimen of men than this poor village of Gumfille has to offer. You have also heard that he has a pleasant laugh on the rare occasion he could be persuaded to forget his troubles and crack a smile. That like most dark-skinned Ethiopian men, he was endowed with beautiful eyes and teeth of driven snow variety. How he used to come first in his class until a D in English, the great divider, tripped up his dream of going to college on his school-leaving certificate examinations. You knew him for a tall man, but in a food-insecure country like Ethiopia, where most anyone whose last name is not Mokria grew up stunted, standing taller than your average male is like being a cog among a group of hens. What's more, you did not care for tall people, even when they gave credit to the second-hand clothes they wore the way he did. Even when they seemed to stand out in a way the tallest man in Ethiopia, Asrat the giant, 219 centimeters, does not. Even when they make your 16-year-old pulse to quicken, the one time you came face to face, where you gave him the stink eye which he appeared too miserable to notice. Chapter 24. Mesai always considered himself as one of the honest poor, a proud poor man's son who lived on principles, but he was aware that he may not come off as that to strangers, especially when he used to be broke, unemployed, and poorly dressed. He has more than once been followed around in stores, being watched carefully by women wearing purses in cabs, and once hustled by a bus conductor, although he was able to produce an annual pass that a Tagus ex-husband gave him as a peace offering after the ticket seller pointed him out as one of those who did not pay his fare on the way in. As Tasfu Abdu would tell you in his more sober moments, the poor is a thief, a drunk, or a loony, as far as perceptions go anyway. So Mesai knew back when his clothes, his face, even his body odor told those standing near and far that he couldn't afford to look or smell better, that it was easy to perceive him as a pickpocket, even if he always stood with his hands on the rail, looking out into the world with naked eyes full of honesty, that he would always be suspect, that it was easy to turn to him, to point fingers at him, to say, "Pat him down first, and you can do me after." Mesai wasn't trying to ruin Yemisiraj. He had no intention of dumping her after he got what he wanted. God willing, his desire, his hope, his prayer is to make her his. That's not because he can't find another to take her place. That he won't survive her loss. Mesai has come a long way from who he was when he tried to court Hagari. He had traveled far, seen more, discovered plenty. That he is even aware of the fact that she wasn't the prettiest, the most religious, even the cleverest girl in the world, but she was his. Plus, Who wants to go around looking for that? The girl of his innocent dreams is who incidentally happens to love him the way he had always wanted to be loved, who worshipped the ground he walked upon. And although Masai had come to be worshipped by many a woman, especially after he made money and a name for himself, he can't get enough of the way she does it. Eyes wide open, first ready for the punch against whoever wanted to do him harm, willing and ready to go to the ends of the world for him. She, in short, was him in the male form, back when he cared less of what others thought of him, and more of what he himself thinks. Back when he wanted not what others said he should, but what he did. Back when he cared what his teachers say of him. This point he made clear to all those who became friends with him, so they can tell whatever girl who had other designs on him that he was taken, that he was spoken for, that he had met, was claimed by, and was the property of the her that he has been waiting for all his life. Alas, her dad hasn't heard this. He doesn't know him, and frankly, doesn't sound like the kind of man who would want to. The last time he and her father crossed a path after he transferred to Kokowetz Secondary School, angry at coming sixth on his 10th grade certificate, the result was less than stellar. Yemesraj's father, Gash Getachew, had just become a unit leader, replacing Jibo, and Masai was working for the school media in an unpaid position given to those kids who had a good radio voice, showed potential in writing, and or were friends with the art and literature teacher who ran it. Masai, as Jibo would have known, had permission to come to class late, after locking up his equipment following the lunch news. Gash Getachew did not know Masai or the civic duty that forced him to hurry to class when he should have been in class. So when he made the young man near the flagpole picking up textbooks he had dropped while running, he drew the whip he carried for this purpose, and not bothering to listen to the kid's protest, hit him twice on the leg and ordered,
"Now go! Don't let me catch you again, dilly-dallying during school hours."
The fact that the guy hasn't changed much in the ensuing decade and a half was obvious. One thing that tickles Yemesraj and makes her more verbal than the dumb idiots around Masai, the dumb idiots at her work, and the dumb idiots on TV, is her father. Deaf as a doornail, blind as a bat, but not as mute as a tomb when it comes to his aspirations apparently, or his suspicion, or his lack of faith in the young men who might want to put a foot into his oldest daughter's life. And not being trusted for Masai is the bitterest insult, especially now that he doesn't have to look untrustworthy. It is a weed that eats the labor of your fruit, the disease that destroys your crop, a poison to any relationship. In a nutshell, it is being Shaka Jr.
"What happened?" he asked when he called the next morning. "Was your dad mad?"
"Mad?" she thundered. "He was out looking for me. He didn't come home until after midnight."
"Looking for you?"
Masai wondered loudly, although he didn't mean to.
"Where exactly?"
Yemesraj gave him a bad look through the phone. "It is not funny."
"No, I don't. I'm sorry." Masai curbed the laughter. "He is right. We shouldn't have stayed out that long."
"Doesn't make a difference," she answered, grieved. "I'll never get to live my own life. All he wants, all they want, is for me to stay a child and live at home and die at home with them." This was a recent discovery, a discovery that Munai's lack of desire to say good morning back revealed. Instead of an angry spinster for an aunt, if she had a mother who'd tell her husband that their daughter would be fine and soothe his anxiety with apparent carelessness, although she herself would probably be anxious on the inside, she would not be forced to separate from the love of her life. "I mean, it wasn't even 11:30 when we came," she continued her complaining. "He left at like 10. 10! I left class at 8:30. I won't get home until 10, unless an empty taxi was waiting for me outside my university with no one in line instead of thousands of other students fighting to get in.
From Sidiskilo to Minilik?
Masai could not help bursting in laughter.
Come on, Wiriye. It's like a 12 minutes ride. It won't take 45 minutes, even if you decide to walk home.
Admit it. You were at fault. From now on, we'll just meet when you don't have class.
And over the weekends? We don't have to walk together.
But she liked walking home together. She likes looking forward to him every evening through the boredom of work, through bus lines and taxi lines, lines to the restroom, through the agony of going from lecture hall to lecture hall. She lives to see him standing against some building or tree across from her university, waiting for her, for a quick kiss on the lips. Then he's taking her hand as if she would not know how to walk on her own, then walking home with his arm wrapped around her shoulder or her waist or her arm around his arm. Before they kissed properly, petted and grinned against one another, prior to saying their third, the fourth, the fifth goodbye for the night. But,
yeah, he said, I'll meet with the guys 3 weeks a week when you are in class. The rest would be dedicated to you. Now that you have met my mom and seen where I live, we don't even have to go to restaurants and bars and waste money we should put towards building a life together. We will go home, watch TV, or just make out.
Wouldn't that be a strain on your mother? She asked. I mean, I know we can't go directly to your room, but I don't want her to think of me as a girl who is being brought to be sexed every night.
She would not think that,
Messiah interrupted gently. Right.
Okay then, if you don't believe me, we will spend it in the living room with her and Abiti.
She didn't want that either. It's bound to get tiresome. She may have given up all hope in Jesus, but she believes in the Bible and its ability to teach you good English grammar, and that it has some wise sayings to live by, especially true when it comes to Ethiopians. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee, and so hate thee. My aunt, Munae, always says, it's not good to be close to your husband's family.
When he has a family,
Messiah interjected.
Mine are just my mum and Abiti. Etagu works late shifts, so it's not unlikely for you to meet her. Abiti doesn't have time for his part. And my mum, well, you have seen her. She's very accepting, even to those who take liberties of her hospitality.
Still.
The other option, of course, is spending Saturday after class at Solomon's place,
Messiah said finally.
He doesn't have a VHS player, but he has a decent bed that we can, sit on and talk.
Right. But won't Addis Zafar be so far for you? She wondered. Well, it's a straight shot for me from Sidiskilo.
It is fine, he said dismissively. Whatever makes my babe's life easy is fine by me.
That is sweet, but I'd rather go hang out with your mum than spend an afternoon in a room reeking of cigarettes.
He doesn't smoke in his apartment,
Messiah protested.
If he did, the landlady will kick him over very quickly. Not even the hope of him someday marrying her daughter would stop her from doing that.
Really?
What do you mean, really?
Messiah said, a little upset, with a surprised disbelief in her voice. I don't know, she lied, because not a day ago he had told her how her negative opinions against his friends affect him. Did he, show any interest in the girl?
That is not what you wanted to say,
Messiah fumed.
You wanted to comment on his undesirability, but changed it at the last minute.
Yemsraj kept her peace. She knows when she is defeated.
I must say,
Messiah continued,
for an educated woman, you are the most shallow person I know. I'll have you know women love Solomon. He has a good job, he's decent looking, and has the heart of an angel. His ex, Zuriash, has told me very recently that she won't have dumped him even if her family did not like her dating a smoker, if he was willing to marry her the second time she got pregnant. Still, he took the day off work to take her to Mary Stops, paid for the abortion, and brought her home in a cab, and took care of her until she recovered. Solomon is a good man. Just because he can't gain weight due to his gastritis and live on nothing but chat and rice, you shouldn't think he is a loser.
Munai has a peptic ulcer too. Everyone has half a dozen family members who have peptic ulcers. It's the most prevalent disease in Ethiopia, something to do with the acid in the fermented national fare. But none of them look as emaciated as the thin man on whom suits hang as if on a leafless tree. Yemsrat can't imagine how he can make it home without being swept by a mere wind, let alone how he succeeded in impregnating an able-bodied woman twice. He must have a big penis, which she has come to understand women seem to like. According to Messiah, his own penis isn't considered that big, just above average. The image of Solomon's light-colored saggy balls bouncing against the vagina, the way Messiah's full scrotum rubbed against hers the other day, crowded her head. Yuck.
Anyways,
Messiah continued,
it is your choice. Either we are going to my place or to my mother's, or to Solomon's, who neither judges you or knows just how much you dislike him.
I don't dislike him, she grumbled. Saying I can't stand the smell of bed in which a smoking man had slept does not mean I hate the smoking man.
Yeah,
answered Messiah,
with a well-deserved disbelief.
Thank you for listening. Please read the discussion points under the description of this episode. We would like to hear your views on these points and any other observation you may have. If you'd like to listen to more stories as soon as they are released, please subscribe to this channel. Until the next story, goodbye.